some opening remarks about our program today. So give it up for Evelyn, everyone. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, London. Welcome, everyone. On behalf of Michelson 20mm Foundation, I'm grateful to be a part of this important conversation focusing on international students. At Michelson 20mm, our work is guided by a deep commitment to advancing student basic needs and education equity, believing that every student deserves to feel seen, supported, and able to thrive on their campus. When it comes to international students, they bring so many skills to our campus communities in countless ways. They bring in valuable diversity, talent, global perspectives that enrich learning environments for everyone, yet they often navigate unique challenges when adjusting to a new country, a new culture, and a different support system. When Swipe Out Hunger shared their vision for the International Student Toolkit, it was clear that there was a pressing and often overlooked need to better support international students, many of whom face unique barriers when accessing something as essential as their next meal. We were really proud to support this work through a Michelson Spark grant, knowing that it would help fill a critical gap in resources and awareness. So this toolkit is not just a guide, it's a powerful step towards ensuring campuses are inclusive, supportive, and better equipped to meeting the diverse needs of their students. Today's conversation builds on that foundation, and I'm so excited to hear from our students. It's an opportunity to highlight challenges, share resources, uplift student voices, and explore solutions that can help foster a stronger sense of belonging for international students and their communities. We are deeply appreciative of Swipe Out Hunger's leadership and partnership in advancing this work, especially through these uncertain times. Their commitment to centering lived experiences and translating those into meaningful, actionable solutions truly demonstrates the kind of leadership that drives lasting change. And I'm so excited to dive into today's topic. So with that being said, I'm pleased to turn it over back to London to share more and guide us through today's discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Evelyn. That was a great introduction to our topic, and I'm so thrilled to get started with you all. As a first step, we're going to just take a look at our agenda. As a reminder, today's session is going to be recorded and shared. And so if there's any resources that you want to look into more, feel free to reach out to me individually via email, but also check out those slides when they come to you in your email. So let's get started. So our agenda today, we're going to do a brief overview of the challenges that international and undocumented students are facing. We're going to introduce the panel. We're going to go through best practices, modes for engagement, and our swipe resources that Evelyn so kindly introduced just now. As we get started, we would love to introduce our first panelist, Fawad, if you want to put on your camera. So Fawad is an international student from Afghanistan who studied at Oberlin College, where he majored in psychology. He was selected for the Zero Hunger internship program through the Congressional Hunger Center, where he was placed with ACDV to support food security initiatives. During his time at Oberlin, he served in several leadership and service roles, including as a member of the Bonner leadership team and as a volunteer for Oberlin Community Services, where he helped distribute food and hygiene products to residents. He also contributed to campus life as an interfaith dialogue facilitator and served as the international representative on Student Senate. He's currently working as a reference assistant at Mann Library at Cornell University. So join me in welcoming. Moving on to our next panelist is Naomi. Naomi is a student leader and advocate for equity in higher education. She currently serves as a Wisconsin Technical College System State Ambassador, representing student voices on access, affordability, and inclusion. As an international student on an F1 visa, she brings firsthand perspective on how immigration status intersects with student basic needs. Naomi represents Wisconsin students nationally at the Great Lakes Student Basic Needs convening in Detroit and now collaborates with Swipe Out Hunger to make campus food security efforts more inclusive. Unfortunately, Corrine was not able to be here with us today, so we're just going to move forward. Michael is a freshman at Bentley University, majoring in computer science. As an advocate for student well-being, he is passionate about identifying the unique challenges of international students regarding food accessibility and basic needs. He hopes to use his platform to ensure that every student, regardless of their background, has the resources necessary to succeed both in and out of the classroom. He's also a member of our 2025 Student Leadership and Advisory Council. So join me in welcoming Michael. Next, Benjamin. Benjamin is a second-year graduate student at Grand Valley State University and the graduate assistant for the Center for Women and Gender Equity, where he coordinates the Replenish Basic Needs Resource Center. their on-campus food pantry. As an international student from Ghana, this topic deeply resonates with him. He's excited to share both his lived and professional experiences supporting international students facing food insecurity. He is also a member of our 2025 Leadership and Advisory Council. So, if everyone could kindly join in welcoming all of our panelists today, I'm really, really excited to get started in this conversation. So, as we start, I think it's really important that we just lay a groundwork of what international students are and what their challenges are. So, international students, by definition, are students legally present in the US, typically on visas such as F1, J1, or M1. They bring diverse perspectives and enrich campus communities, yet they often face unique barriers while pursuing their education, as Evelyn brought out previously. In addition to that, many are far from family and support systems while adjusting to new cultures, languages, and expectations. As a student in general, these challenges are really, really hard to navigate. And so when you have this additional layer of lacking support systems and family, it's additionally challenging. So here are some little facts that I think are important to note when we're talking about this. 2 to 3 times more likely are international students to experience food insecurity, more so than domestically born students. Most international students are not eligible for SNAP benefits, regardless of need. And the US is by far the most expensive country for international students to study in, based on in state and out of state tuition rates. Moving on, the key challenges that international and undocumented students are experiencing are typically these four, but there's obviously far more than just these. And we'll get into those once we start our panel discussion next. But of the four, work restrictions is a major one. Employment is often limited to on-campus jobs through special authorizations, which oftentimes is not enough to meet the needs, especially when you're working on federal work study or these other employment restrictions when it comes to hours and how much you can actually make in a month. In addition to that, like I said before, these high tuition costs that are given to international students because they're considered out of state are very, very, very high. And like I said before, these benefits programs are really not eligible. So Pell grants or anything that you would get from the FAFSA is just not applicable here. And in that same vein, there's limited benefits access. So federal and state assistance programs that most college students would be trying to at least use to address their needs issues are not even available in this case. And lastly, as mentioned, there's major social barriers ranging from language, cultural differences, the distance from family and support networks, and on top of all of that, an ever-changing federal policy landscape that really makes adjustment difficult and confusing for many students. So to get started, I am going to turn this over to our panelists to hear some thoughts that they have just initially. Starting off with the question, what struggles do you face as an international or undocumented student, or have you faced as an international or undocumented student? So if you are not a panelist and you're just registered for this call and you would like to engage in this conversation, please feel free to type in the chat. This will give us a great opportunity to hear what your thoughts are. But for panelists, go ahead and just unmute yourself whenever you're ready to share your response. Turning it over to you all.
Okay, I think I'm gonna go first. Hi, everybody. One of the challenges I face as an international student is work restrictions, like London mentioned earlier. We have limited work hours and wages don't exactly match the cost of living. So even if you're working the max number of hours, the dollars you make don't add up. So that's a lot. And then that's coupled with tuition rates. So you're not making enough, but you have to pay tuition out of pocket because you don't have access to things like student loans. Or even if you do have access to loans, the interest rates are insane. So you don't want to be taking out a loan, you know? So limited hours, being able to work only on campus, your wage does not match the cost of living, and then tuition. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. Do any of our other panelists have any similar thoughts?
Yeah, I would say for me, the work restriction is definitely a big thing because most of the international students here will be living alone and they have to depend on themselves, which is a good thing. But it also comes with pressures that they're away from family, they have to work and after that study, which you can look at it from different ways. That it's a good thing and bad thing at the same time. But also with like cooking and getting groceries and things like that, I think it adds up to make it harder a bit for the international student.
Absolutely.
With all those things in mind,
Oh, okay.
sorry.
Sorry. It looked like Benjamin maybe was speaking on mute.
Yeah, Mohammed can continue. Sorry.
Okay. Oh,
Oh, okay. I guess I can still go. So once again, my name is Benjamin, and then I am an international student from Ghana. So for the most part, international students, what I've really faced, I can share in the thoughts of Naomi and then Michael. So limited work hours is very the huge one. We have only 20 hours to work in a week, which is not really sufficient, right? But other things I've also experienced with regards to like the particularly stigma with regards to like asking for help. Right. Initially, when I first got here, I was thinking, I mean, it's very difficult to ask for help because here in the United States, almost everybody is kind of like individualistic. So it's very difficult to reach out to someone for help unless, of course, like you really know them and you've established a very good relationship with them, right? And then also like adjusting to the general cultural setting like the general culture, it's very difficult because it's a new country, it's a new environment, new food, like everything here is different for the most part. So basically, these are some of the challenges. One other thing is particularly with the food, right? Because we are not used to the food systems over here, and it's like difficult to adjust. I think we'll be going more into that since there's like around food and food insecurity issues. So let me just mention these few things, and then we'll talk more about issues when we get into the food aspect and how all of these challenges intersect with food insecurities. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, these are all great things. I've had personal experience with them. The things I want to mention, people mention like loans and aids. One of the things as a Muslim you can now do is pay interest. So I had to reject the loans that I would get because not only I can't pay them, but I'm not allowed religiously to take loans. The other big problem with finding food on campus was halal food. So dietary restriction, Islamic or religious dietary restriction that I had. So there were so many times that I would go and I would just eat fries. I love fries. I know they're not good for me, but I had to do that. And another thing I think a lot of international students would resonate with that is also the first year, especially when you spend money, you convert it to your own money. So like going to Walmart and spending like $10 is like, oh, it's going to be 500, 600 Afghanis. That's too much money. A lot of people would not be able to make that. There are so many challenges, but I think my focus when I was in college was mostly during Thanksgiving because we mentioned support. We mentioned that there are a lot of international students are away from family. And it feels so much when it's Thanksgiving. You see a lot of people going and seeing family, and then you're there. And sometimes even dining halls close. And it's usually the hardest times to find food, especially if it's in a rural area. And during Christmas. When Christmas comes, there's two problems. One is the staying on campus. Housing is the main issue because a lot of campuses, they close. And the second thing is food, just finding any food, not only like focusing just on halal food, just finding any food is hard. So we'll get into these more, but these are like there's like so many challenges that I'm hearing from a lot of people saying, but hopefully we can get more into them.
Absolutely. It sounds like all these just add up to each other and then create issues to the other, and it's just like a circle of issues, it seems like, in a lot of ways. But let's see what we can do to address that on campuses. So moving forward, pantry best practices. So in reducing stigma in campus food pantries, it's essential that you avoid assumptions about a student's situation. And I think a lot of the times this is the issues that a lot of people are expressing about, particularly international students. Like there is this assumption that international students are of higher income backgrounds. There's assumptions that they have families that are supporting them, but everybody is coming to college with a different experience, regardless of the fact that they are international or not. And so really avoiding that assumption is essential. And greeting students warmly, regardless of background, this should be a given, but unfortunately, it is something that needs to be noted because students deserve to feel seen, valued, and safe, especially in these pantry settings. As is noted on the slide, food insecurity affects students from all backgrounds, and yet stigma can prevent students from accessing essential support. If students don't feel comfortable coming to their pantry, they're not going to come. And so pantry staff play a critical role in creating an environment where all students feel welcomed, respected, and safe. And ways that they can do that are by honoring cultural and religious practices. So a way that pantries can be doing this is including culturally relevant foods and ingredients that recognize holidays and fasting schedules, such as Ramadan, Yom Kippur, and Lent. In addition to this, asking students for preferences or dietary restrictions when possible. This is why surveying your student population is so important because you can learn so much about what your students are looking for. If you're noticing that your pantry isn't getting a lot of utilization, although there seems to be a food insecurity problem, it may be a problem because the food is not aligning with what they need. And so simply asking your students what would work best for them is so, so beneficial. And in the same vein, including multilingual signage when possible, especially when in areas that international students are frequenting, is a great way of making students feel right at home. So to extend this to our panelists, what are some ways that we can be prioritizing students' cultural or religious needs in the food pantry?
I can go on this one. So I said I coordinate the on-campus basic needs center on Grand Valley State University's campus. And then what we normally do is to first of all, for the beginning of every academic year, we send a survey out. Asking students about their dietary needs and all of that. And then for the most part, in our programming, particularly geared towards international folks, for our programming, because we normally do events right around like food insecurity for students. And then we make sure that these programming are culturally appropriate. So here at Grand Valley State University, last year we did a lot of food around cultures, a lot of programming around culture. So we did food demonstration, like live food demonstration, where we actually prepared these meals for students on campus to basically come and observe. And then we didn't do that just for doing sake. We did it and also like give them recipe cards and also the ingredients to help them prepare these meals at home, right? Just so they feel, at home. So we did that around cultures. And then this year or this semester, we are trying to also do something around halal. Right, work with the Muslim students to also like make them like seen and known that we value their halal culture and all of that. So for the most part, that's how we do, and that's how we also prioritize like the cultural and religious needs of students, like basically doing programming around their cultures and also ensuring that their culture and then everything that has to do with their beliefs and things around food insecurity is being highlighted. Yeah, that's what we are doing here at Grand Valley State University, and it's really helping students and international folks here.
It's a great idea to hear. Demonstrations paired with pantry providing is so effective in making sure that your clients not only have the food they need, but also know what to do with it. If it's a new environment with new food that you don't know how to cook, what are you going to do with a bag of food? So it's really essential that we do that. Is there any other approaches that any of our panelists would recommend?
I would want to say like clear labeling because like Fawad said, students don't want to be worried that, they're breaking religious rules by eating a certain kind of food. So if it's clearly labeled and ingredients are listed and like they know what to expect from like whatever they're getting, then that would be reassuring and like not stressful for them. And then having like staples, I mean, a lot of cultures eat rice, beans, spices, having those things that people would typically, regardless of culture, you know, have, then that would also be very helpful as well.
Absolutely. I know that in my time running a pantry at a college, the fasting schedule around Ramadan was a huge challenge for our campus community, primarily because dining halls were just not open past fasting periods. And it was just really, really important that our pantry provided foods that would align with halal diets during those timelines, because otherwise there weren't any options, because the school was in such a rural area that definitely didn't have, public resources that were halal. So that's definitely another consideration that I think is really crucial. Do we have any other points before moving on? I feel like Michael had something to say.
Yeah, expanding on that idea, I saw like what if pantries have like some things that are unpacked like rice or uh lentils or tomato pastas, something like that like even international students can just take and make their own meal instead of just like mac and cheese box that they can use because maybe it has cheese, so they can't use it for Lent or things like that. So unpacked stuff.
Yeah, these staples are really, really important, because even those few items that you named, rice, beans, tomato paste, like you can make so many different things out of that, and it's applicable to so many different cultures. And so having those staples that are widely used are so crucial. Unfortunately, it is harder to order some of these things from the food bank, but it's really important that, at the beginning of the year, we take these things into account so that we can allocate the budgets for that, because at the end of the day, these students are going to need these resources regardless if you order them. So, do you have any more points before we move forward? Okay, sounds good. Oh, Benjamin, you are muted. Um, I'm sorry. If you could just unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted.
Okay, there you are.
Yeah, so one thing I would want to say with regards to like this one is basically those who coordinate food pantries on their campuses. One thing I want to say is that like when you prioritize the cultural and religious needs, right, it starts with like recognizing that food is deeply tied to identity and belonging. So the first thing you're supposed to do is like to listen. So that's why the taking surveys are very, very important. Listening is very, very important rather than deciding what students might need. It's best if you listen to your student, like send the surveys out, listen to them, because you cannot just decide for someone what you feel they would want, right? So if you are a food pantry coordinator in your various institutions, or like you lead the food systems in your school or something like that, please make sure that you are really prioritizing the students' need. You are listening to them, because when you listen to them, you'll be able to determine what actually they would need to be able to thrive on campus, even in this new cultural setting.
And I do want to say though, like to go off of what Benjamin said, we do know that it's possible um for food pantries to access these things, because if you look at what happened during like when SNAP wasn't the best, specific foods were requested, like we need you to donate this and that and this and that. So you know that it's possible for these food pantries to access these things. So why are they not accessible? So now that we've seen and used Snap as a test run to see how quickly things can progress, how quickly things can change, just to change things for people who don't have access to resources, then that can be replicated in so many ways.
Absolutely. And I think that the freeze on SNAP alerted a lot of people who maybe were not concerned about food insecurity before, maybe didn't even know that it was as much of a problem it was, because it doesn't affect their day-to-day life. And suddenly they're seeing that this is actually affecting so many people. I mean, we heard from a number of our partner campuses that they were able to hold these really, really effective food drives to bring in food that maybe they were not able to get before because of budgetary issues or whatever the case may be. So it's definitely possible. And I think that when we do come together on campus, amongst groups, amongst organizations, it's a lot more feasible to get this sort of work done. And we'll get into that in our next question. So if we have any other thoughts, if not, I think I am going to move forward to our next point. So building a campus support network. As I previously mentioned, it's really, really important that your campus pantry is connecting with different cultural affinity groups, DEI groups on your campus, to connect students with shared backgrounds, but also so that these students who maybe are not even aware of the pantry are connected to the pantry. In addition to that, as I said before, collective action is so crucial when it comes to supplying the pantry with everything that it needs. And so, like Naomi brought out, the SNAP freeze was a great example of how when we are all collectively aware of an issue, we can come together and really address it. And when we have that pre-existing connection with different groups on our campus, we're able to create that solidarity a lot more effectively. In that same vein, utilizing campus resources such as emergency grants, peer mentorship programs, and campus nutritionists is really, really crucial. And I think a lot of times students are not given really clear information about how to find these resources. And so I would urge, if there are any students on the call today, to investigate what sort of resources you have available. And a great first step is reaching out to your dean of students, dean of student life, whatever they call it at your university. They usually can direct you to different resources such as emergency grants, peer mentorship programs, and campus nutritionists. And usually these can help you lead to something that is a lot more supportive rather than just a temporary solution. In addition to that, volunteering with community-based programs will give you an opportunity to learn about other resources that are available on and off campus. As was mentioned earlier by Fawad, like Oberlin Community Services is not associated with Oberlin as an institution, and yet they have this really, really strong bond with the college and provide so much assistance through not only funding, but also staffing. And that has allowed for college students to know about the resource in case they ever need it. And so it is very cyclical in the sense is when you support your community is going to support you in the end. So building that mentorship and building that campus support network is really, really crucial. Here are some programming ideas that will help international students, both socially and meeting their basic needs. One of which is a Know Your Rights clinic. These are really, really increasing in popularity recently as everything that is happening at the federal level has been drawing folks to be really scared. And it's really important that everybody knows of their legal resources. And in our toolkit that I will be highlighting at the end of our presentation today and also sending out to everyone who participated in this call, you can see what legal resources are available to the broader community at a national level, but also on a localized level. In addition to that, doing cooking collabs with cultural organizations. This is something that we've seen a lot of our partner campuses do. This is a great opportunity to connect with broader campus communities, but also to share that, these are environments where students of all cultural backgrounds are being supported and provided with resources that align specifically with their practices or traditions. And lastly, setting up a talk space. As was mentioned earlier, it's really hard to reach out and just ask for help when you don't know where to start. And so when you have a space that is set intentionally for the goal of providing students with an opportunity to express their concerns and find resources that align with those concerns, it's a lot less intimidating than simply going to an administrator and saying, hey, I need help. That is really daunting. And for a lot of students, it feels deeply stigmatized. And so they're not going to do it. And so setting up an option where you meet the students where they're at is a lot more effective at getting students connected to the resources that they really need. So I wanted to ask the panelists, what sort of events or programming have been successful in building solidarity on your campus?
I'd say for me, I'm here at Bentley. When I arrived, they have a class called FDS, and it's called Falcon Discovery Program. Basically, you have like an older mentor who's like a junior or a senior who's like upper class, and it's our class, and he's just like telling you about what resources you have on campus. And for example, one of the things that they made us do was just visit a couple of other buildings that we would usually not go to during the first few weeks of the year. And another thing here is that I would advise, like London said, just try to research well what the university has in terms of resources and try to go to as much events as you can. For one thing, it's a great chance that I got to know a lot of people. I made a lot of friends, and from one of these events, actually, I got to talk with someone through LinkedIn from like a Zoom event before coming here to Bentley, and he told me about Swipe Out Hunger. Before that, I didn't know what's that program at all, and now we're very close friends. So going to as much events as you can and creating as many friends and putting yourself out there, I think is a great thing because you get to know a lot of people, even if they're not at Bentley, like maybe they're like professors, they are teachers, or they just work in the library. I think there are great connections to just get to know people and talk with them.
I would want to say, like at my school, talking about basic needs in class. So I had this instructor that had us write down problems that we could be having as students, like generally, not even about international students. And on the list, there was food insecurity, there was needing childcare, needing transportation. And she was like, okay, come see me with the list and I will direct you to where to go. So having instructors or professors talk about basic needs in class, because instructors are people the students see every day. They don't go to student life all the time. They go to class every day. So having instructors continuously, you know, talk about basic needs and where to access resources to help is very helpful.
In my third and fourth year at Oberlin College, I was running a program, an event that was called Open Iftar. Iftar is the meal where Muslims start eating after the full day of fasting. So what I would do is, and with few others, we would send our program and how much we want from them to different offices, and would get like enough money that we could host around 150 people. It was a big event, bringing good food and everything. And the reason I'm mentioning this is first, a lot of people would learn about what this Muslim culture is, what is Ramadan, which is related to food. It's fasting time, people don't eat. But not only that, there were like a lot of conversation would happen. A lot of students, non-Muslim students, we even one time had this challenge that how many hours can you fast in a day? And then they would try to do that. And then they would come to us and tell us, okay, like what time does it start? And I would say like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. And they would be like, where do you get the food from? And I was like, they don't give us food. No place is open. And they would be like, okay, when do you open your fast? And I would be like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. depending on the year. And they would be, oh, dining hall closes at those times. So it was not only like this was an event where people could again come and enjoy these things. They would also come and learn what are the struggles. And would when the students find out, a lot of the students would bring it to student senate that I was working or to dean of the students, all these struggles. And then after some time, they had like they would give us Ramadan packets. It was not that good. It was not that hot food because they couldn't give us, but still there was something. And also, with talking with the students, when I mentioned about how a lot of the students, especially international, don't have a space uh, during winter break, during Christmas. After my first year, when we tried and gave got a student some funds to support for food and home, I also find out that there are so many other national students who don't feel comfortable going home, or there's no place quote unquote called home for them. So it's not only a struggle of one group of students; it's a struggle of a lot of group of students. And then, as much as it was mentioned, talking with people in creating spaces where we talk, and there were years that I talked with dean of students, and we got like students enough money that they were so happy that they could eat out all the time that they were there during winter break. So it's always about like talking with people, mentioning all these problems, because a lot of the students, they don't know these struggles.
Absolutely. Connecting with the people on your campus who aren't affected by these issues is crucial because oftentimes, if a campus community is tight enough, they are going to want to advance the issues of the other campus leaders on campus. They are really going to try and see what they can do to solve this issue. And so, really, like I said before, connecting with every corner of your campus is so effective, and especially going to the administration and saying, hey, these are the issues that we're facing with, these are the issues that we're hearing other students talking about, what can we do to rectify this issue, is often the first step. All right. Any other thoughts on this question at all? Could be anything.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to talk about with regards to like this topic is we cannot deny the fact that most successful programs are the ones that are done with in partnership. We cannot do any program in isolation, right? So like I mentioned earlier, here at Grand Valley State University, we normally do cooking demonstrations and then we do food around cultures. And then one thing that we started doing is to connect more with the international students the office of the international students, and then they are the ones that would they are the ones that normally would connect us to the international students who are coming in from different places. So we are able to get first-hand contact with them, and then I'll try to ask them what their needs are, because these are the folks that will be able to tell us, okay, we are used to this type of food, we are used to this, we are used to that, and then we are able to like work around getting foods from pantries around. So we work hand in hand with like Feeding America West Michigan, community partners like churches, some community partners like those that even gives us clothing, right? So just to like help them adjust to the system and then cultures here in the United States. Another thing is also that we work with the Student Senate, the highest governmental body here on campus, right? They are the ones that normally would advocate for us, and then also help spread the word about food insecurity and how the university community can help us a lot with that. So, I mean, this programming that we do, right, it's not just to provide food, but it's to kind of like help these folks build trust. And then when folks trust you, when students trust you, it gives them that kind of like belonging, so they can able to come to you with like any situations or any like challenges they have. So that's why we've prioritized some of these programming, just to like make these students like feel secure and then feel belonged, because they're in a new area and then they're in a new cultural setting for the most part. Yeah.
Definitely. Those cross-campus partnerships are so crucial, and really expanding what sort of offerings that you're providing on your campus is so important. Because it's not just about food. It's about belonging, and it's about community, and it's about feeling like you have a place on a campus. Because what does it communicate to a student if they're told, okay, we don't have any food for you during breaks. We don't have food for you that aligns with your cultural needs. I mean, that is really going to make a student feel like they don't have a home on this campus. And for students, like Fawad mentioned, like there are students on campus who are only there. Like that is their only home. And if they don't have anywhere else to go back to, it's really, really important that that campus does feel like their home. So connecting to our next point, we, as Evelyn mentioned at the very beginning of our presentation, we have a new toolkit called No Borders, Just Support, Building Belonging from Campus to Community, which was how we developed this presentation today. There's some really amazing resources that are listed in there, some really great programming ideas, and overall just really important takeaways from this call, but broadly what students are needing right now when it comes to international support. And so I really want to urge you to check it out. Like I said before, I'm going to be sending out these slides afterwards. And so if you're not able to scan that QR code for some reason, you would rather just have a link, I will have that in your inboxes shortly. In the same vein, we also have created an international student funding resource map, which similarly, if you scan this QR code, it'll take you to a document that has 4 different breakdowns by region: Midwest, Northeast, Southeast, West, and what different resources they have in each state, as well as on a regional level. We recognize that some of these national funding opportunities are very, very competitive because they are on such a wide scale. And so by having a more localized resource map, you can find resources that better align with your needs. The first step in really securing programming that aligns with the needs of international students is having the funding to do so. And so by investing in the future of your campus, you can really ensure that these international students are going to feel right at home. So if you are an administrator on this call, I would urge you to provide this to any of the international students that you're working with directly who are looking for opportunities for funding and are facing barriers, like mentioned before, when it comes to interest on loans or work restrictions. There's so many barriers here that fortunately having a granting resource or just a fund is really, really effective for addressing. So I urge you to check that out. And I also wanted to open up the floor for any questions that we have for our wonderful panelists. And before doing so, can I just get a round of applause for this amazing group? You all have given really, really important insights today that are going to help all of us in addressing these needs. I'm seeing a comment that's asking, can you send the links? After this call, I'm going to send a mass email with these slides, the 2 assets that we have developed for this, and any other additional information so that you can view this again and share it with anybody you would like to share it with. So if you could just Give me about an hour, you'll have it in your inbox. But yes, please, can you provide a list of spices that are recommended? Yeah, how about panelists? Open it up. What are some spices that you wish you would have seen in your pantry? If not, I can share what we ended up putting in the pantry that I was operating. Some of the basic ones that I feel like, I mean, I put in everything. So, onion, garlic, cumin is a big one, paprika, turmeric, um, sazon packets is a big one too. I'm trying to think. Palm oil is another one. I think, yeah, adobo is good. Am I missing any? What else? What else would we recommend, panelists?
Cloves, allspice, bay leaves, curry powder, ginger powder.
Yeah,
You know,
the essentials. Is there any other questions that we have about what sort of foods might be good when it comes to ordering? Let's see. I have dried chilies, fufu flour, and a bunch of items. That's great. That's wonderful. Definitely more than what I've seen in some of the pantries across the nation. Popular foods with long shelf life that are halal, vegetarian. I know that when we were doing programming for Ramadan, we had some like break fasting foods like dates and things of that nature. But is there any suggestions for foods that might be a little bit more sustaining?
Yeah, white rice, beans, pasta, oats. My own meal site has a lot of things like that. And I think chicken even, or coconut milk, things like that.
For meat, it has to be slaughtered in a special way, so it has to be zabiha, uh, halal. But I also know that there are so many Muslims that would also eat kosher food. Uh, People who keep kosher cannot eat halal, but people who keep halal, at least I keep strictly halal. But if I can't find halal, I also eat kosher meat too.
Yeah, so familiarizing yourself on the kosher and halal food labels is really important. You can have a better sense of whether or not this is going to align with the needs of your students just by checking out the back and seeing if it has that logo on it. Maybe when I send out the email today, I'll also include a little clip of what those look like. And maybe a list of some of these foods that we have recommended here today, because I do think it's really important. Let's see. I'm seeing that Sheila Payton is raising her hand. Sheila, could you do me a favor and type your question in the chat? If not, let me know. Um, let's see. Is there any other questions that we have for these students, either about programming, resources, creating community? I'm seeing a comment that says, our university used to offer egg in a cup. Um, is that in regards to breaking fast, or yeah, that's what I was assuming. That feels not halal. Hmm.
So egg is fine. It's just the way they put it. It's like usually it's like peeled and they put it in that and looks. I don't know who told them that that should be halal, but the way they put them, and I don't know. It's like it's so many campuses do that. I don't know where the idea came from. Uh, it's good, but if it's not peeled and put in a cap, like yeah, in a weird way.
Oh, no worries. No worries, Sheila. I just saw that you had raised a hand. All right. Any other questions? We got a list of options in front of us, but we've got some experts right in front of us, so definitely ask the experts that while you have them. Let's see. How do we assess need for cultural foods at our institution? I try to stock our pantry with single ingredient foods that can be used in many cultural cuisines. Spices are often something we don't have budget for. Any suggestions? So, as far as assessment for needs, again, as mentioned before, surveying your students, communicating with your students is a really, really great option for this. The ways that I've gone about it in the past was by simply having a form with a QR code that students can scan on a flyer in the pantry to put in any sort of input about what they want. But we noticed that, scanning a QR code and filling out a form is sometimes too much work for students to do who have very busy schedules. And so what we ended up adopting, which sounds kind of rudimentary, but ended up working, was just putting a dry erase board on the fridge that we had in the pantry, and on the dry erase board writing, what sort of foods do you want to see? And I remember the first day that we did that, we came back the next day and it was filled with different food options. And so oftentimes, if you give an easy way for your students to provide feedback, they're going to do it. It just needs to be, something that's not going to take 5 minutes to do. Because again, students are busy. And especially if those students are trying to manage all of this on top of just being a student, it's a lot. So making it easy for them to give feedback. But as far as stocking your pantry, like I said before, we realize that there are limitations to these things. Even at just the food bank level, as I mentioned before, these food banks are operating off of commodity food supply chains. And so they're really oftentimes very plain foods. But like mentioned before, some of these staples, these like staple foods, are very wide ranging when it comes to how they can be prepared for various cuisines. So again, as mentioned before, rice, beans, canned meats, halal meats. But again, if you don't have, the budget for spices, totally understood. But as mentioned before, having some sort of campaign for a food drive or some sort of donation program are oftentimes really, really effective in addressing the need for this. Even if you give like a little blip that says, we are looking for these specific foods to meet the needs of our students. Can you supply any of them? Oftentimes you're going to see donations, and it's typically coming from staff and admin themselves, professors, administrative staff. But I think it's effective. And even if you are, putting donation box around campus, like that's another approach that's really effective rather than having to make them come to the pantry. The name of the game here is making it as simple as possible, whether it's for the students or for the administrators or for the staff. If you really need this, meeting people halfway by simply putting a box in their administrative office in whatever building they work in, or putting slips around different buildings so that it draws people's attention to the topic and the need, is a great first step. And obviously this takes bandwidth that not all of us have. You all are probably wearing 5 hats in your roles, but it definitely is a lot more effective than just expecting to get this feedback directly to you. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, based off of what you said, London, about partnerships, a lot of like companies are trying to find like CSR things, like corporate social responsibility things, and they're willing to like donate stuff to pantries. For example, Walmart, right? They usually have like these tiny spices that they sell for like 99 cents because they're trying to get rid of them. If you got them to donate those spices instead of trying to sell them, you're like, you look good, we look good, everybody looks good, everybody's happy. Collaboration and working together.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and it's hard to know where to start with those things. I think a lot of times people are like, oh, we're a tiny pantry. Like Walmart's not going to care about us. But your local Walmart or your local grocery store is probably going to care, and are probably seeing how much food is getting thrown away at the end of the day anyway. So again, working not only with like partners that are on and off campus, but maybe even like food recovery programs that are working at making sure that the food that is already on campus is being relocated is also a great idea. Working with your dining providers are ordering things at such a bulk cost that oftentimes it's going to be quite cheaper than what you are able to order as an individual. And so talking to them saying, hey, how are you purchasing, your seasonings? Is there any way that we can add to that order? Is sometimes something that's available. Again, each dining provider is different, but it's possible. It's about finding the right person at your grocery store. A lot of people just tell us to send a web request and it never gets responded to. Yeah, this is definitely true. In most cases, it is about knowing someone. And that's why we urge so frequently for our partners to get out into the community, connect with people who have resources that could be pertinent to this cause. Because at the end of the day, knowing one person can lead to a solution that feels like it was impossible to find in the first place. So yeah, get out into your community, talk to your neighbors. Michael said, we have an Amazon wish list at Bentley that students can add things to. Spices, I think, can be added if it's really needed. I think we had once or twice some salt and pepper. Yeah, Definitely like setting up not only, like I said, these like mechanisms for students to put in input, but also to just put in directly what they want themselves is a really great solution. Um, let's see. Naomi said there's this app called Too Good to Go. I love Too Good to Go personally. The other day I went and I spent $5 and I went to a grocery store and I got a bunch of random things, but they were things I didn't have in my pantry before. And so it's a great way, as Naomi brought out, to connect restaurants or grocery stores with people who need food to reduce food waste. And you just walk in and pick up like you place a regular order. Yes, precisely. And that's why it's effective. It doesn't feel stigmatizing. It doesn't feel like you're doing this in a way that is like demoralizing. It is, and not that it should ever be demoralizing, but unfortunately, these are the social challenges that our students are being faced with. Let's see. Yvonne said, thank you all for this webinar. This has been amazing and very informative. I have another meeting, but I truly found this very insightful. Well, thank you so much for being here. We are getting to our end of time here. We're about 5 minutes out. I just wanted to open up the floor one last time to see if anybody had any questions or if any of our panelists have thought of any last points that they would like to bring to the table.
I do want to say that food is often the entry point to having students access resources. So if students trust the pantry at your school, they would most likely seek help with housing, transportation, mental health, or whatever other needs they have. So if other resources are not being used, it's most likely because food is not as accessible as you might think it is. So if people are using the pantry, then it's easier to be like, okay, you use the pantry, here's access to other things that you might need. That's what I think.
Absolutely. I love that quote. Food is the entry point to students seeking out resources. I absolutely agree. As administrators probably already know on this call, if you ever want students to attend an event, say there's free food, and suddenly you're going to have flocks of students coming to your event. And the same goes for resources. If students are made to feel as though they're going to get a tangible resource out of whatever programming or offering you have for them, chances are students are going to show up. So yeah, food is crucial to all of these areas. It's not just about being well fed, because it is, but it's also about social satiation and personal fulfillment. So with that point, I am going to wrap things up here. I want to thank everyone for attending our call today, but particularly our partners at Mitchelson 20mm Foundation. We want to thank you endlessly for supporting our mission to equip our campus partners and students with practical tools, compassionate guidance, and a sense of solidarity. Truly could not thank you enough for this opportunity. And to our panelists, I have to thank you endlessly for all of the important information that you provided here today. You truly have given us an opportunity to connect the student needs to the administrators who are implementing it. So again, thank you. If you have any follow-up questions after this call, please feel free to reach out to me via email. My email, which I'm typing in the chat right now, is london@swipehunger.org. If you need to connect to any of these speakers individually, I can get you connected. Please feel free to reach out to me. But as I said before, I'm going to send a follow-up email after this with all of our different resources connected and a recording. Benjamin just put in the chat, when campuses design food systems with international students in mind, everybody benefits because dignity, access, and belonging should never depend on where a student comes from. Well, with that note, I mean, you summed it up perfectly. That is it. That is really it. Yes, thank you, Benjamin. That was the perfect way to end this call. Truly essential that our food systems are keeping all of this in mind, because at the end of the day, dignity and access is crucial for student success. So again, thank you all so much for being here today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, but expect to see an email in your inbox shortly with all of this information and more. We hope to see you next time.